Good morning, friends. I hope your day is going well. I hope it's going awesome. It is Friday. I am recording an episode. The date's supposed to come out, which is very much not me, but this week has been crazy. But I still want to ensure that you guys get an episode out of me since I took a break last week, and I will make sure that I'm doing this and being transparent. Taking breaks, I'm going to make sure I'm taking breaks and being transparent about them. So I probably every 3 episodes, like I'll take a break that week from producing just because that's me. And, I don't want it to lead to burnout. So, that's an executive decision for me. And y'all have to keep in mind to make these decisions for you when you feel out of sorts and out of whack. So, welcome to episode 3. Today, we are going to be talking about spiritual awakenings in the beginning of it, what it can look like. It looks different for every single person. However, from my friends telling me about their spiritual awakenings, from what I see on social media, and of course my own spiritual awakening, I have kind of narrowed it down to some stages of your spiritual awakening that you will embark on, that you will go through. So I'm very excited to share those with you, just chit chat about what it can look like. My goal was to have my mentor come on to this episode. Unfortunately, the timing for this week was just, like I said, it was crazy. So she'll definitely be on for the next episode. So super excited to bring her on. She definitely is like, it's giving expert level. I know, we're lifelong learners and we still have a lot to learn in our lifetime. So I am really excited to get that to you guys. So let us get started. Okay, so I definitely did want to not necessarily like recant a statement, but I guess revise my statement. In episode 1, I defined spirituality, my personal definition of spirituality as the process or experience of connecting to something outside of yourself in the 3D world that you can see. I did define spirituality that way, and however, I do also want to include the fact that connecting with things outside of you, that first prompt might come from those outside energies, but it also definitely includes connecting with yourself. And I think that this is the most important part, the first step of learning to be aware of the world around you with fresh eyes. I definitely feel, it's going to come from connecting with yourself first. So, I do just want to instill in you guys and reiterate, if you guys already did know this, but we are the cosmos. The cosmos are us. The way that humans were made, if you look at like what a star is made out of and you look at what our human bodies are made out of, they're literally made up of the same like building blocks, the same elements. So for you to doubt your divinity and for you to just to doubt how powerful you are, to doubt your connection to the world outside of you, to otherworldly things, like it just blows my mind each and every time. But that is what the purpose of this podcast is, for me to educate you guys, in case you didn't know, to educate you, to have this conversation, and to spread that knowledge. And it's something that I truly, truly love. We are connecting to the energies outside of ourselves. Yes, of course, when we have our spiritual awakening, but those energies are us to begin with. We are the energies that we put out. If you've heard of the law of attraction, it has to do with the thoughts that we think are going to be reflected back to us, are going to come back to us. And that is a super important concept. So now that I cleared that up, my personal definition, I revised it, I've reminded you of your divinity and your power and your connectedness to the universe, to our earth, and everything and the other galaxies. I want to jump into the awakenings, what helped me to really accept that, because I feel like there's a big difference between really realizing something or just hearing something at first and then really realizing and accepting this, because you could hear the same things over and over. And like I said, the key word here is like hearing. You could hear the same things over and over, but there comes a time where you really like it clicks and you're actually like really listening. If you've ever heard of the phrase, some people hear and then some people listen, like you're hearing me but you're not listening, or you're listening, you're not hearing me, or whatever the phrase may be. There is a difference between both of them. But anyways, especially like what I said, when it comes to having your awakening, there will be a lot of things that you just hear some people saying, but once you come into your own, once you have these realizations of your own, then that's when you really start to listen and take into account, hey, this person might be true. I might be made of the stars too. I might be as powerful as the planet, and I might have the ability to manifest whatever I want. Spoiler alert, you do. You always have the ability to get whatever it is you want. But manifestation, that's another episode. So stay tuned for that one. But yes, spiritual awakenings. Let us jump into it. So, awakenings. More likely than not, your awakening will be prompted by outside forces or circumstances. This will depend and differ from person to person. But what I found, like I said, I've recounted from my own journey, from people I follow on social media, and from my own friends who have told me about their spiritual journey. It is pretty much usually prompted by something outside of yourself. So it might be losing a job, it might be breaking up with a person, it might just really be that you're down in the dumps, really in the depths, in the abyss, like just going through a rough time. That is a circumstance, that is a condition. That's not necessarily like you waking up one day and realizing, oh yeah, I gotta change. Like, or so, some people do. Some people do wake up one day and be like, yeah, I gotta change. But like most of the time, it's prompted by an outside source. Maybe somebody told you that, oh yeah, you need to get your shit together. Like it differs from person to person. The circumstances will differ, but I do notice that it is like an outside circumstance or an outside trigger that is, doing this for you. Getting to the spiritual awakening part, I have broken it down into 5 stages, starting with 0. The 0 stage, when we think of numerology, I just learned this like a few weeks ago from a mentorship program. When we learn about numerology, we learn about the number 0. We'll think about even the shape to begin with, the shape of 0. It is a circle. There is no beginning, there is no end. It could be seen as a cycle. And I feel as though since there is no beginning and since there is no end, there is a lot of great potential for things to happen. There's potential for anything to happen, whether or not it's good or bad. There is potential there. Stage 0 is the trigger. So like I said, these triggers come outside of you. I did give some examples of what the triggers may be. So like I said, losing a job, having a fight with a family member, losing money. Even if you have a job, you lose your money, the loss of a family member, someone doing you dirty, loss of a friendship. Like there are so many triggers as to what it can be that just like wakes you up. And I do think that these triggers are important to us. Definitely hindsight is 2020, guys. Like in the moment when you're experiencing this trigger, it absolutely will feel like the world is crumbling around you. Most likely, things were already crumbling, and this was kind of like the tipping point. This was the rock bottom, whatever you consider it as. This was that point that kind of catches you off guard, like pause, record scratch, like, whoa, like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And I will also preface this by saying, not preface, because we're like deep in the episode at this point, but I guess I will also like include this as well. Like, spiritual awakening, it's definitely like very woo woo. It's tied to the woo woo side. But like I said, if you've been listening to my episodes, definitely pick up the book How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicola Pear. It's really good. I always say that it's good for those people who don't believe in the woo woo stuff because she puts it in very scientific terms. But essentially, everything that she talks about is everything that I'm talking about right now, but just with a spiritual twist to it. So, anyways, like I was saying, spiritual awakenings, this could be a time of realization, whatever it is you want to call it, if you don't want to think of it as spiritual. But for real, everything in this life is spiritual. That's another topic. But anyways, spiritual awakenings, your regular awakening to the ways in which you need to change, whatever it is you want to call it. So stage 0 is the trigger. You're going to be triggered. You're going to realize, you're going to wake up and you're going to realize, hey, I really need to change. I need to get my act together. Let's do it. Like I said, hindsight is 2020. It'll feel like the world's crumbling around you. Most likely than not, like I said, it's already crumbled and you're kind of just dealing with the aftermath. After the dust has settled, it's like, wow, like, okay, I have to rebuild. Like, where do I go from here? And honestly, if you have made it to this point of, well, I feel like at some point, if you have a good foundation in your life and you've been emotionally intelligent since you were young and you have a good way to cope with your feelings, this may be different for you. But for a lot of our world, a lot of people, we're stuck in trauma loops. We're stuck in generational trauma. Like, it's literally passed down through generations. So it makes sense that a lot of our population is like really traumatized. So I'll speak for the general population, of course, and myself included. I was in this. I was definitely one of these people. Like, my rock bottom. What was my rock bottom? Losing some friends, always arguing with friends, always like, one of my friends choosing themselves, because they would say, hey, I would really appreciate if you did X, Y, and Z, if you change this. And I'd be like, yeah, sure, okay. I do not do that. And it wasn't because I didn't want to do that. I had every intention to change, but I never really even had a good foundation myself with my parents, with my family, of what it meant to take accountability for your actions, what it meant to apologize, what it meant to really sit down with yourself, do that introspection, and be like, okay, like, you know, I will always say this, and this is very nuanced. Like, yes, we are the main characters of our world. The world definitely revolves around us. We are living a very unique human experience that we are living in our bodies that no one else can really know about. So of course, you have to be selfish in some ways, but at the same time, like, you're not the only human on this planet. So always acting from a way of just selfishness and wanting to do things your way and not compromising, like, it's not going to get you anywhere. It might get some people some places far, and they might be like that as adults, but trust and believe they're probably getting their karma. Like I said, I have every intention to change, but I couldn't. I didn't have that good example. And it wasn't until I sat down and really realized, like, hey, the way that my actions are affecting somebody is really not cool. I need to change that. I'm losing friends, and this isn't cute. Like, that's really all I could say about it. But it really felt bad in the moment. That was my rock bottom. And I will also say it wasn't like this was a friendship, of course, but it was also a relationship, for me, a romantic relationship, and that shit was hard. So yeah, it was, like I said, hindsight 2020. It was hard. It was a trigger for me, but that was the beginning. And it was also like the physical separation as well, like being separated from this person because of COVID. We all went home, and I was like, damn, like, now that everybody's home, like, who can I talk to? There were some people that I could reach out to talk about, but then there were some people that's just like going through their own things. It was it was a mess. COVID, pandemic, we love it. Anyways, all of that to say that that was my trigger. So that was stage zero. Like I said, foundation crumbled, dust is settled. Oh yes, I'm gonna circle it back around. It's a very brave act to look at when your foundation has crumbled, when the dust has settled, and realize the mess, and want to pick yourself back up and clean it, because not only is the world around you on fire, crumbling, like, that's taking up all your time. Like, once that has happened, it's like, okay, I just went through a trauma, or I just went through something really hard. Now I gotta pick myself up by the bootstraps and rebuild all this on my own. Like, it takes a lot of work, and there are a lot of people that are just not built for this. Like, they're not cut out for it. And I'm gonna applaud you, because it's commendable. It's really, really hard. If you're doing the work, it is not a perfect process. Also, don't beat yourself up. Anyways, yeah, I wanted to circle back around and say that, like, once the dust is settled and you decide to rebuild, that in and of itself separates you from like 95% of the population, because there are a lot of, like, people who are not self-aware of the way that they, what their actions do to the world around them. They lose friends, and it's just like, oh, that's their problem. Like, I'm not the problem. I didn't do anything wrong. It takes a lot to realize that sometimes you are the villain in someone's story, unfortunately. And it's hard, but the best we could do is forgive yourself, ask them for forgiveness if you really, if you think that they'll respond well, or even if they don't respond well, maybe it's for you. Maybe you want to say your piece and just keep going. It's really hard. Now, next, stage one. Now we're getting to stage one, which is referred to in the spiritual community as Dark Night of the Soul, but also it can be referred to as the cocoon stage. It's time for your little caterpillar self just crawling on the ground and on your legs and stuff. It's time, you want to fly, you want to be a better person. It's time to go inward, and it's time to do the work to transform yourself, right? So the dark night of the soul, like I said, triggers terrible. It's going to feel like the world is like crumbling down around you. Like I said, the dust is settled, foundation done, crumbled, gone, right? Dark Night of the Soul is seeing, like, okay, it's kind of like inspecting everything in a way. It's inspecting the house, like, oh, this foundation has been cracked for a very long time here. This wood had termites or something, so it made the house unstable. I'm trying to give, like, my visual people a visual. It made the house unstable, and how this can kind of translate into your own life. It's like, okay, I was uncompromising in this situation here. I wanted everything to go my way. I lost a friend who wanted that change, right? It could be with a job. I self-sabotaged my job. I missed days. I didn't communicate that I was going to be out. I didn't do work to my fullest potential. Those are like two good examples for right now. But I just wanted to give you that visual. This is basically like it's a dark night of the soul. It's like everything around you is dark. It's like you can't see a way out right now. It's gonna be dark. It's gonna feel like you're in an abyss. You're in the depths of yourself. So that I feel like that's why they call it a dark night of the soul. And I think of it also as like a winter. Winter, everything is dormant. Everything has pretty much kind of died off since the fall. But we know that the spring is coming. We know that it's going to be regenerated. And that's a beautiful thought. That's a beautiful thing to think of. That's something to keep in mind. But like I said, hindsight is 2020. So when you are in the midst of this, it's not going to be easy at all. You kind of just got to take it day by day. You got to really do that introspection. You have to sit down. You have to do shadow work. I'm going to speak about shadow work in a upcoming episode, like very close to this. You gotta do your shadow work. You gotta, like I said, you just gotta look at the ways in which the foundation was crumbling in the first place, in which your actions, maybe even the actions of others, even if they were the actions of others and not necessarily yours, maybe it's the way that you were reacting to it or the lack of reaction. There's a lot of different things in this stage that you will just have to like put on a replay, think about, and it's tough. It's really hard. But at some point, which leads me to stage 2, you will emerge. You will start to emerge from that dark place. Like I said, you will, after, really being introspective and realizing, hey, I was the villain, or hey, I didn't speak up for myself here, or whatever it may be, like that's when you start to emerge, which I think of as like the forgiveness stage. You really start to forgive yourself for your lack of actions, for your actions, for anything you did to another person. It is also how you'll see that everyone around you kind of is living from a projected state. So once, it's spring, essentially, the very beginnings of spring. Everything hasn't really grown yet, but you're starting to see buds here and there. You're starting to see little buds in the leaves of the trees. You're starting to see the animals come back out again. Like this is very early spring. And like I said, you're seeing how everyone around you is living from a projected state. You're starting to forgive yourself. But it is also a time when because you're seeing so many people living from a projected state, you're going to be like, wow, like everybody doesn't embark on this work. Like they don't visit the depths of themselves and do this work. Like, that's crazy. Like, at some point, and definitely within, I had the backing of a spiritual community for me. So it was really nice to see so many individuals and follow so many individuals that like constantly work on themselves, that really use their knowledge and support other people, give guidance for the same people who are going through the same things. It's really nice to have that community. But I get it. Like, even if you have an online community, your community in real life might not be doing that. And most likely than not, 99.9% of the time, they're not going to be doing it. I feel like spiritual awakenings or realizations, coming into yourself, getting to know yourself is a very big task for generational curse breakers. And most of the time, we are the black sheep in our family. Our family's going to question us. They're going to scoff at us like, oh, you believe in this woo woo shit? You believe in manifestation? You believe in the law of attraction? I've heard it all. Trust me. And I questioned it for a long time. I'm like, y'all are not doing this. Even if I didn't say it to their face, I was really questioning everything. I was like, y'all are really not engaging in this. Like, you don't see the ways in which your actions are literally defining the world around you, yet you think that, something that's happened to you, oh, it's just bad luck. No, baby, it's the energy that you are attracting to yourself because of the thoughts that you have. That's like another thing. That's a mindset thing, especially when you have your dark night of the soul, when you're in the cocoon. I feel like a big part of the spiritual awakening also, which I didn't get to a later stage because this spiritual awakening is gonna literally go in waves. Like I thought I healed something and I emerged and I was like, yes, yeah, let's go. And then I had to heal something else. And that for me, the second stage kind of was a mindset. I was like, oh wow, I really have a lack mindset, brought about by generational trauma for me and my family. I was like, sheesh, this is terrible. But anyways, that's like another thing. Like I said, like some people change their mindsets and some people don't realize the thoughts in which they emit to the universe is what's going to come to you in your life. So that's another very important step in spiritual awakenings. But yeah, essentially in the well, technically the third stage, but I call it stage two because we did start with zero at the beginning. In stage two of emergence, of the springtime, of whatever it is you want to call it, you are seeing that everyone is living and projecting onto you, and it's really, really tough. And that is the part I feel as though where you really have to just get comfortable with that. It's hard. Again, it's like another nuanced situation because, yes, you get comfortable with it. You realize that you can't help everyone. You can only really help yourself. And it's always great. I'm an Aquarius. Like, we are the natural humanitarians of the zodiac. So it's like, of course, I want to help people. And I have a Virgo moon. Duh. Rules the sixth house, service and all that good stuff, being of service to others. I love helping people. That's my thing. I want to help people if I see them struggling. But sometimes people have to struggle to learn on their own. If somebody is always coming to the rescue for them, they're never going to learn how to do it on their own. So I definitely feel as though that applies in this situation. It applies in every situation. But also, like, even if you're constantly helping somebody, they're not going to want to change unless they themselves, just like you did in your spiritual awakening, unless they themselves realize, oh, it's time for me to change. Because they could hear it from as many outside sources as like humanly possible. But once they have that realization, or until they have that realization, it's not going to happen. And that leads me to the fourth stage, which is stage three, which is acceptance. Like I said, it was nuance. You have to accept it. Like, yes, you want to help people, and it's good to still have that helping spirit in you. As a recovering people pleaser, yes, of course, that is me. But at the same time, you made your bed. It's time for you to lie in it, with your actions. Like, you got to realize that this is the consequences of your actions, and they got to realize it themselves. It's very unfortunate. It's hard for sure. It's one of the things that I'm still grappling with after being like 3 years full time into my own journey. But at the end of the day, I can't do anything else, quite honestly. I can only help myself set an example for others to follow as I help myself, which I have been doing, which has really been nice, after 3 years, but at least finally it's happening. And don't attach a timing to your healing. Like, even after I said after 3 years, yeah, that was kind of a reminder to myself as well. Don't attach a timing to your healing. Like I said, literally everything comes in waves. You really realize that you're healing some parts of yourself, or yeah, you're healing like one certain part of yourself, and then you'll get re-triggered. So you kind of have to like heal it again real quick. But I will tell you, after every time, you get a trigger, and if you're really working on yourself and the way you react to things and the way you process things, like, you're going to move through that wave a lot quicker and a lot easier. So it gets easier, trust me. But that's not to say, that you won't get triggers, which you will. You will still get triggered by the same things. And once you feel like you even still got a good grasp on it, there might be other things that come up that you need to heal. Like, for example, which I also will be going an episode about the different types of healing too, I feel like is really important. I started personally with inner child healing. At this point in my journey, I'm on the tail end of my inner teen healing. So like, inner child and inner teen are like two very different things, and I really thought that I was good to go. I'm like, yeah, my inner child, she could speak up now. I know like the ways in which I want to have fun, how I could spark my creativity. My inner teen was like, well, no, in teenage years where we were developing our identities and who it is we wanted to be, it wasn't even the best either. So here we go, Miss Ma'am. So that's like another thing that I'm learning to work through. It comes in waves, and don't rush it, is basically what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that was the third stage, acceptance. And then the fifth stage, stage number 4, I put rebuilding here, but throughout all of these stages, you're literally rebuilding your foundation. I guess it's just like a continuation of really making sure your foundation is solid. It's really where you put things into practice. Like, if I was doing shadow work and I was working through my triggers, and I was like, yeah, this happened and it made me feel this way. It was really bad. And I was like, oh, ooh, yeah, journal entry done, or however you do your shadow work. And then it's like, in the moment, I might have felt triggered. Real life example for myself, one of the things that I struggled with as a child, especially because of my family, was emotional expression, expressing honestly any other emotions other than anger. And I felt like I'm an emotional child. I've been an emotional child. I'm an empath. I will always say that. I'm a highly sensitive person. So I feel everything so deeply. And that was no different as a child. Imagine a child, like going through the world, taking on other people's energies as well as a child. Like it's a tough task. It was a tough task. It still is very hard for me. But at this stage, I've learned to regulate it. I've learned to be better about these things. Emotional expression, like love, public display of affection, happiness, joy, pride in one another. Like my parents were very unfamiliar with that. And then even with my sadness, with my anger, my fear, my frustration, they were always like, okay, well, especially with sadness, I would be like, I'm sad about this. It really hurt me. And then my mom especially would just be like, okay, so what are we gonna do about it? Like, let's pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and let's go. And I'm just like, this just happened like 5 seconds ago. Like, can we relax? So that's something that I have been really struggling with my entire life. And so it's obviously like for that reason, I'm even getting a little choked up right now. Obviously, for that reason, like it has been hard my entire life to express any sort of emotion, mainly like sadness, mainly the quote unquote negative ones, because I don't really think that there are any negative emotions. It's just the things that you do off of said emotions, that become negative. But anyways, because you could channel anger into creativity, and you could like sadness is not bad. Anyways, all of that to say, especially with sadness, especially with things that bothered me in the first place, with frustration, with anger, it was really hard for me to express them in the first place. So I went through up until I was 21, for real, up until I was 21, because I'm 24 right now, of my whole life, like just not being able to speak up for myself, not being able to say, hey, that bothers me. I don't like it when you do it, without freaking crying, which I thought was a weakness. And I realized for myself that, and I still do it today. I'm practicing, being not better about it, because that's just the way that my body copes. For whatever emotion, bro, I'm gonna cry. Like, and I used to apologize to people for it before, but I'm like, that's kind of the way that I show my emotions, and that's it. I shed a few tears and I'll be good. And I thought that that was a weakness. So I'm like, okay, in order to cry, like in order not to cry, I'm just gonna shut down. I'm not even gonna say nothing. So I'll just be there, tears streaming down my face, something clearly bothering me, and I'm not even talking. And that was from my dad's side. It was very hard. Anyways, all of that to say, like, I've recovered now. I've really done the shadow work, and I really, like I said, everything that I just said now, I didn't really know that before. I didn't really realize that. I didn't have that knowledge. I didn't have that like sort of awareness of how my parents, how my other relatives, how this stems back generations, bro. Like emotional expression has always been hard in my family. It's something that I struggle with, but having that awareness now, like I'm able to tell you guys about this, and I'm able to not get choked up. I'm able also to forgive my parents because they didn't know any better, because that's what they were shown by their parents and the parents before them, like this is a cycle. But I know now it ends with me. And so when it comes to ending a cycle in real time, whenever a situation comes up where I'm uncomfortable, I do, like, of course, I went 21 years. That's like 21 out of 24. There's only 3 years of my life where I've really been like, okay, let's work through this. So I've really just been conditioned to be like, okay, we're shutting down. We're not going to do this. I don't want to even engage in the first place. It was very non confrontational. Still kind of am in some respects. I'm realizing now, when something happens in real time and I'm triggered in real time, it's really kind of just coaching yourself. Like, that's really what this fifth stage is about, of really making sure that you're maintaining your foundation, that you're continuing to build upon the things that you went through in your dark night of the soul. It's really important to do that. And for me, I literally, like I said, I have to coach myself. I have to be like, okay, we're realizing, and I feel it in my body first. I feel the sensations arise. I feel my chest tighten. I feel like my throat tighten as well. Of course, the tears come in my eyes. I get like a tension headache right here. And without that awareness, like I said, I'm able to tell you guys these things now. Awareness is so important, and that is cultivated in stage 2, which is the dark night of the soul. So that's really important. Read Dr. Nicole's book, please. She taught me all of these things, and I'm so grateful. Like I said, I feel my body first, and I'm able to now be like, okay, I realize this is coming up for you. Let's breathe it out, So I take a deep breath, and I remind myself, in this moment, I am safe to express myself. you're not back in childhood anymore. You are an adult. You're able to express your emotions and, not worry about the reactions of other people. Your emotions are valid. You are allowed to be vulnerable. These are normal human emotions and expressions, which in the wider world, and especially for men, I'm so sorry for y'all. It angers me that especially with men, like, we teach y'all not to speak up and express your emotions because that shit is terrible. As a highly sensitive person, and imagine if you're a big feeler too, if you're a highly sensitive person too, you also have that aspect of like, oh, you're a man up. You can't express your emotions. So I can imagine how hard it is. It takes a lot of healing from these things. But the first step starts with awareness. It really does. If there's an outside trigger, just aware of what it's trying to teach you, what you can do better, how you can rebuild your foundation. Like I said, it's going to look different for everybody, but I do think that these are all really important things to keep in mind. I hope that my breaking down into the stages helped a little bit. I was a little bit all over the place, but I tried to, stay within an outline. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. I am always here. As a reminder, I still do readings, I still do my spiritual coaching. These topics that I talk about, if you find that you can't really get guidance from people around you, first of all, trust me, I could put you onto a community of healers, of generational curse breakers who are doing the same work that you are doing still. Okay, like I said, it's not linear. You're not going to be healed overnight, number one, and you're not ever going to be completely healed. For 21 years of my life, I had this lack mindset. I was selfish. I didn't really know how to express my emotions. If I was doing this for the majority of my life, first of all, I can only think that it will probably take me another 21 years to really be quote unquote healed. But of course, like I said, like, you're never going to be fully healed. There's always going to be triggers that come up from your childhood that are going to test you, but it's really just, like I said, that awareness and really changing the ways in which you react to them. Your reactions, the energy that you put out are vital to the way in which you shape your own reality in your own world. I can't express that enough, you guys. So it's really important that, you start with just being aware, literally taking the time to sit down, observe, number one, the world around you. I think it's super important. Like I said, you're going to realize that a lot of people are projecting onto you. And number two, like, being aware of yourself, of your thoughts, of, what that cycle, that monkey mind that most likely is going on in your head. Yeah, just sitting with yourself, maybe in meditation. For the purpose of this exercise, I would recommend first, like, sitting with yourself in somewhat silence, writing down whatever comes to mind, saying it as a voice recording. That's how I like to do it. What else? What else? Like examples like that. Sit with yourself. However you choose to do it first, if you want to observe other people first or observe yourself, like, just observing is really like a key step in seeing, okay, these are the cyclical thoughts that go on in my mind, or this is the environment that I'm living in, bro. Their thoughts, their actions, the way that in which they approach the world, and the way in which they, approach their friends, their family, their job, love, whatever. You will really, really start to see it, and it will be an eye opener. And I think to just wrap this all up, it really is a constant state of forgiveness. Something that I learned, a little unrelated but still related, is that when you're in a romantic relationship and you're trying to make it healthy and you are putting in the work into a romantic relationship, like, it really does require forgiveness over and over again. And that kind of just like struck a chord with me because I'm like, wow, shit, like, that's true. But the same can be said for yourself. You're really learning to love yourself in the way that you are now, or, the way that you are with all of your shadows, with all of these aspects of yourself. Like I said, for me, it was a little bit of selfishness. For me, it was not expressing my emotions. Those were my shadows, but I realized, hey, like, this is me right now. I accept it. I'm showing love to my shadows, and that's a really important part. When you're going through your shadows, like, it is really easy for you to be like, I hate this part of myself. I'm here in my spiritual journey. I hate how I treated that other person. It's normal to feel that way, but don't let that hate consume you. Like, it's really important to shed light on these shadows, because at the end of the day, that's all they wanted to do. Like, They wanted to be seen because at some point they were formed in the first place as defense mechanisms, for that vulnerable little child in you or that vulnerable teenager that wanted to be seen as like, okay, let's put up a wall. And that resulted in the shadows. In order to tear that wall down, you really just got to show it love. You got to be aware. You have to realize, okay, these are my triggers. This is what I can do to quell them. And then you got to show it love. You have to show it forgiveness. Learning to love yourself is a constant state of forgiveness, and that's something that really clicked with me this year, like within the last 2 months. So it's hard, but everyone, I do feel like you got it. Like I said, you have a community with me. I could put you onto a community with others. It's really hard, especially if you are the first person in your family to sort of like snap out of it and wake up. They're gonna view you as crazy. Heal anyway. It's really important because you're doing this for yourself at the end of the day. I mean, you are doing it for yourself, but when you heal yourself, you really do heal the rest of your lineage. So, anyways, like I said, y'all got it. You have a community in me. I hope that everything I spoke about today was helpful. If you have any questions, you can drop them down below in the comments. You could hit my DMs. You can do whatever. Just know that I'm here for you. I want to support you guys, which is the whole reason why I make these podcasts in general. Like I said, I love helping people. I love spreading knowledge, talking about these subjects because these are the things like, and I'm gonna be real with y'all, I'm never gonna sugarcoat it ever. These subjects are hard. These subjects are not really spoken about so often, and I feel like they need to be given a voice now. So you got it. I believe in you. You guys are amazing. And that was all for episode 3 today. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you next week for episode 4. All right, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.